Started.
All right, people are still joining. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you here. Thank you for joining our very first alumni webinar. We'll get started in just a moment. And just to let you know, today's session will be recorded and I will be sending out the recording over the coming days. I'll now hand over to our hosts, Peter and Jess.
Okay, so whilst we're kicking off, let's kick off with an acknowledgement of country. So I am out at Wurundjeri land in the with the Woiwurrung clan. I live out near Mount Disappointment, near the Black Saturday area. So yeah, very much lucky enough to live out here with the trees and wildlife that still abounds out here. So we acknowledge all the elders past and present and thank them for being custodians of the wonderful land upon which we live. So how are we going? We've got 25 people. I just had a quick through. Liz Ackroyd's there. Hi, Liz. Roll, how are you, mate? Good to see you. I don't know everybody, but is the chat on, Therese, or have you censored our great audience?
I believe chat is working.
Okay, so, oh yeah, it has to work because otherwise this session wouldn't work so well. So anyway, hit the chat. We'll be asking you to use the chat as we go through. So feel free to hit the chat. So let's, I'll give a quick intro. So generative AI, it will probably, in terms of how we've experienced it for most of us, will have its first birthday on the 1st of November next month, first day of next month. So really, we haven't seen anything hit the world like this ever. And it really takes me back to those early days of the internet where suddenly we could access the world's information. And it's really, I suppose, captured the imagination. It's scared people senseless. We've had, like any new technology thing, we've had a lot of alarmism. But what we're seeing is that the real opportunity with this is that it can provide you with an enormous amount of value. And what our session aims to do today is to help you unlock some of the things it can do. It's pretty hands-on, so it's not just a chalk and talk type session. So let's hit it. So we've got, I think, most people here. We've got people putting in the Q&A. That is disabled for me. Q&A is working.
Yeah, I think Charisse is looking in the background. We've got a few Zoom settings not working, so we will try and get the chat up and running. In the meantime, if you have any comments, pop it in the Q&A,
we'll
and I'll react as though it's a chat. So
okay. That's innovation. All right, so let's
kick it off.
Slides there, Jess. Introduce yourself, Jess.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. My name's Jessica. I currently also work with Deloitte as a part of the strategy and AI team, preliminary focused on the AI Institute work. So that's going to be everything around AI fluency and educating individuals about the potential of AI and use cases out there. So we are here to demystify a lot of those big, scary concepts and bring it back into the reality, like what we are going to be doing today with generative AI and learning how to prompt. So Pete, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know me, Pete Williams, unlike you, I've been trapped inside Deloitte for now 40 years. It was my 40th year anniversary, and I've had a long history in working in digital and innovation, and I currently lead the Deloitte Centre for the Edge, which is applied futures think tank and do tank. So yeah, and I've been lucky enough to be able to focus on this stuff for the last, probably since January, and it's just because I'm so excited about it. So when we're talking about generative AI, what we're talking about is artificial intelligence that creates new content. So that content might be text in the form of a paragraph, recipe, something you've written, but everything it does is new. It's not producing back what somebody else has published, as you do with, say, Google. It can do images, it can do 3D models, it can do music, and that output is all based upon a whole heap of sort of machine learning across these neural networks that go and find connections between words. And then when you put in what we call a prompt, which is what we're going to talk about today, it provides the context for it then to come back and return. So some of the ones that you would have heard of, OpenAI, which has got ChatGPT. If there's a number of versions, but the free version is ChatGPT 3.5. The paid version, which costs $30 US a month, I think. Oh, sorry, $20 US a month, 30 Aussie, is ChatGPT 4, and that's the one that's, if you're lucky enough to have had a release, it's got the ability to upload photos and analyze things like, why is my plant dying and what should I do about it? Midjourney, that's a very popular image generator. So you, again, and if you look up there in the top left-hand corner, prompt, flowing river, whirlpools of marble, aerial view, hyper-realistic, vibrant colors was the prompt, and that was the new image that Midjourney provided. GitHub Copilot, for those of you who are more technical, GitHub Copilot's been running for maybe 3 years now. It's a tool that allows or helps generate code in conjunction with software developers. And what's interesting about that is that when you actually look at benefits and productivity and all that stuff, it's actually got a 3-year history where they've been able to actually calculate what that is. Coming to a desktop near you in the very near future is Microsoft's Copilot. So GitHub is owned by Microsoft, but Copilot is in effect generative AI applied to your Office 365 toolkit. So, and the dream is that it will pick up on all of your emails and your writing tone, and hopefully at some point we'll have a personal generative AI clone that does all the work, and we can sit out in the bush and look at wildlife and all that stuff, but maybe not before I'm finished working. And then, of course, you've got other ones such as Bard. Bard is Google's version of a generative AI text generator. It's sort of same but different. But again, we're seeing these large language models come from many places. So there's other ones, Claude. There's another one I like using called Perplexity.ai because it gives you some sources and references. Bing has a generative AI feature included in it. Not a big fan of Bing because what it tends to do is trying to optimize what you've put in or your prompt and turn it into a search term. If I want to put in a search term, I would put in a search term rather than trying to have a generative AI conversation. So they're all slightly different, but it's worth understanding that pretty much the main thing, everything it does is new, and it is created originally from that prompt or that input that you put in. Next. And ask questions as you go if you feel like it, or if the chat magically works. So what are we actually looking at here? So one of the things that we hear is that these things think and they've got reasoning, and what about their ethics and all of these type of things. These large language models are simply prediction engines. So with all the content out there that's available to be trawled in public, on the web, books, all this text, it goes out there and it just goes through them and says, oh, cat can be an animal, cat could be a tiger, cat could be a lion, cat could be short for category, or Cat 6, which might be a network cable. So all the different things of cats. And if you're talking about cables, it might start talking about Cat 6 cables, or if you're talking about cats, it might, say the cat sat on, it will say, the cat sat on the mat. Sometimes people might say hat, but that's because they're associated with Dr. Seuss. But anyway, they just generate statistically likely continuations of word sequences based on what you put in there. And over time, the more prompts they get, the more thumbs up they get, or even the thumbs down, as you see when you put in a prompt and it'll come back. It sort of says, oh, okay, that's a better answer than that. And if you want to impress your people at home, just say, oh, it's using RLHF, which stands for Reinforcement Learning Through Human Feedback. Always important, even if you don't know much about the technology, to know a few of the acronyms so you can sound credible. All right. Any questions on that? I reckon that's good. As I say, just throw it in. So what we always see when there's an emergence of a new technology is this sort of alarmism phase. So I first got involved in the web and started using the web in 1993. And one of the headlines I remember is that there was concerns that children would be making nuclear bombs in their bedroom because somebody could publish the secrets of making nuclear bombs. Obviously, they hadn't read the secrets of making nuclear bombs because they're quite hard to make, and your bedroom is probably the best place to do it. But we sort of see the same alarmism that we see. So it's extremely dangerous, whether it's conscious or not. These are just headlines that we've pulled out from newspapers around the world. And this sort of notion of, I'll get to the point where they realize that the only thing really wrong with the world is all those humans stuffing it up. The other one is ChatGPT's answers could be nothing but a hallucination. Yeah, they could be. The way I sort of say you should think about ChatGPT and these large language models is think about you've got like a knowledge savant sitting next to you that knows everything that's ever been written, but doesn't really understand much about context and is pretty gullible. So you can make these things answer. You can get it to speak in any tone you want. You could get it to write in the tone of Donald Trump, Winston Churchill, yourself, but it acts very confidently, but it's not always going to be perfectly right. And if the more detail you ask for, sometimes it will add detail. So one of the early prompts I did was, tell me what Centre for the Edge has published. And then it told me a number of Centre for the Edge publications, but it also added a couple from Capgemini and a couple from PwC, because the topics that we'd spoken about were very similar. The language we used was similar. So therefore, it sort of made that association. And then, of course, in the age-old theme of robots and automation are going to take our jobs, Goldman Sachs say, 300 million jobs could be affected by the latest wave of AI. My view would be that over time, pretty much all jobs will be affected by AI, but not affected in terms of negatively. It's the ability for us to suddenly access information in the way that we need it makes our life and our work and our ability to interact with the world's knowledge so much easier. Hang on, we've got somebody in the chat, Jess.
Oh, that's me.
That's Jess.
We've got the chat working. Okay.
It's working. Well done.
One issue at a time. We're good.
Go, Roll. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Say something, Roll. Say something profound while you're there. All right, let's go on.
Amazing. I just wanted to flag there too, and we'll touch on it a bit later with the impacting jobs. One thing that we've really been honing in is that it's no longer just about doing things differently, which is like how it has been with a lot of other previous technology, but it's also about doing different things. So completely reimagining the way that we are working.
And Sam Altman, who's the founder or the CEO of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT and DALL-E, he's got quite a sort of, fatalistic view of the world. AI will probably most likely lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there'll be some great companies. So let's focus on that, and let's see how we can help take you to the next level. Recently, we did and for some of you who've been around at Deloitte for a period of time, may remember our paper that we did, might have been 10 years ago, called Digital Disruption, Short Fuse, Big Bang. And the notion is of the fuse, it's the length of time, and the bang is the sort of level of impact. And when we've looked at, who do we see, or what industries do we see that will be quickly and highly impacted by this sort of stuff? Finance, IT and media. And we're already seeing that with, the ability for people to sort of write stuff and automate blogs and all of these type of things, and content production, massive. I was talking to a post-production guy from a film company the other day, and he said it's completely changed the sort of time and the tedium in the work they do. Education, and anybody who works in education will know that many teachers are very worried about it, but by the same token, many teachers are realizing that this can be such a boon in terms of helping them create great lesson plans, and there's some really good focused educational tools out there. There's one called Monic. Do you know that one, Jess? Monic.ai, MONIC.ai. Again, you can put your content in there and it'll create flashcards, quizzes. So your ability to sort of take content and make it usable, relatable, even update it, so much easier than used to be. And professional services, which is where all of you will have worked at one time. And to be honest, we're seeing people across the firm using it in so many different ways. One of the things that some of you may be happy to know is I'm working on trying to make Deus work like a ChatGPT chatbot. We all know that Deus is very good at returning search results. It's just not very good at returning ones that are useful to you. So we've got that working in a fashion. So again, just looking at it, and also a lot of the way that we're preparing reports on these type of things, where we can sort of put in bullet points, write emails, get it to help us develop workshops and format workshops. Also using it for there you go, Liz. Liz was in internal comms previously, and yeah, the pains of Deus is something hopefully you're not experiencing in your current organisation, but if you are, give us a call and I'll show you what we're doing with our enterprise knowledge service. So anyway, but I think the key point is we see it having an impact, and particularly in knowledge industries. And when we set aside the alarmers, and this is one of the reasons that I sort of got pretty interested in it, it was like I started to say, what's out there that can give you some sort of directional view of how does it change things beyond, it can reduce cost? Because a lot of people, how do we, does that mean we can get rid of everybody? And the answer is not really, but they can be a lot more productive. And what GitHub did was they took 100 people, or actually I think it was 98, and sort of split them down the middle and said, you guys go and develop this web server deployment program and using Copilot, and you guys go and do it not using Copilot. And what they found was that from a productivity point of view, the guys using the generative AI tool, it blew it out of the water. But also more generally, when they surveyed people, it was, how do you feel about using it? I'm more productive, 88%. Less frustrated when coding, more fulfilled with my job, focus on more satisfying work. We're sort of seeing it, and we're automating things like, particularly in the digital side, development of personas and scenarios, development of user specs, and all of those type of things. A lot of that work is pretty repetitive and tedious, and may involve finding a precedent and cutting and pasting, and buggerizing around in general. But it's that sort of ability to get rid of the grunt work and allow you to focus on the more challenging stuff, or spend more time on the edge cases. Faster completion, faster with repetitive tasks, more in the flow, because you don't get stuck and I've got to work this out and hang on, that's in the way, and less mental effort on repetitive tasks, mainly because you're not actually having to do them. And back to the Deus analogy, less time searching, because you just sort of ask. And I think that to me is the most profound change. It's that when we search and we find something, we get it in the context and the language in which it was published, not necessarily in the context and the language that we require that thing. So, your ability to sort of say, hey, explain quantum physics to me as though I was a 12-year-old, and then give me quiz questions one at a time to make sure I understand the concepts, is much better than trying to read, a Stephen Hawking book on quantum physics and black holes and Hawking radiation. So next, move on to the next one. All right. So what we're sort of saying to people is that AI is not going to sort of replace people or replace you in your job, but somebody who uses it might. And that one of the software tools that I've been working on with within the team, the one that does the user stories and requirements, we showed it to some BAs, and one of them said, "That's my job. You've just automated my job." And it was like, no, your job is to work with clients to develop outstanding digital experiences, not spend hours cutting and pasting mundane, repetitive stuff from previous sets of user requirements. Like, we've changed the way that you can work, but it gives you more time to focus on what you're employed for. And I think, having grown up as an accountant before computers, my job was to help people understand how the business was going. My work was writing it into pen and using pens and paper to put it into sort of handwritten ledgers. Took a lot of time, but really limited the value you get from the work. So for me, a lot of this stuff that automates the mundane and gives you the opportunity to do stuff in a faster, quicker, better, higher quality, less risk way is where it is. So I'm going to hand over to Jess and we're going to start prompting. Is that right, Jess? Are you picking in now?
Yes, we are going to start prompting. So we're going to dive into the world of good versus bad prompts. So you might be sitting here just thinking, okay, well, what is a prompt? In this context, a prompt is going to be the input that you provide a generative AI application to get your desired output. So that can be whether you do it into text or whether you do it into an image or PowerPoint or code or whatever generative AI application you are using. I'm seeing a raised hand. I'm going to test this. Sorry, guys, we've got weird settings on. So I'm going to see if I can allow Liz to chat.
Oh,
How do I do this? Raised hand.
I'm going to try to do it.
Oh,
Liz.
here, you did it. Liz, you can chat.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Liz, we can.
amazing.
Cool. I missed your question. I'm sorry.
You raised your hand.
Ah, did I? That was accidental.
Oh, no, that's
Wow.
brilliant.
It's like, wow, we can delete. All right. We're going to
Actually,
unallow you.
I'm going to allow
Mute me
everyone
again.
to talk. I think it's a new setting. So if you guys just click yes, I'll just gradually do this as we go. So random. But yes, if you want to say anything, raise your hand and we'll gradually start doing that. So back to prompts, good versus bad. So on this screen here, you'll see the example of two different prompts. We like to think of a prompt as a personalized chef. So think of this analogy as we go through. But essentially, if you are on, say, this really luxe holiday because you've just won the lotto and you've got a personalized chef, and you ask your chef if you would like pasta, chances are you're probably going to get good pasta, right? You're going to get what you asked for. But if I've left out the fact that I'm maybe gluten intolerant and I don't eat meat and I don't like tomatoes, the pasta that I'm getting probably isn't going to tick all of my boxes and it's probably not going to be ideal. So yes, you've got what you did ask for, but it's not going to be your desired outcome. So if we take the examples on this screen here, you'll see the initial prompt being, what are some museums I can visit? Sure enough, you do get a list of museums. However, are they relevant to you? Maybe not. So in our improved prompt, we're now going to ask it to act as a travel guide. It's going to provide recommendations and ask follow-up questions to tailor. So this will then trigger a conversation between you and ChatGPT in this instance. And perhaps it's going to ask you what type of museums you'd like to visit, what are your main interests, what time of year are you visiting even, and then you're going to be getting preferable outcomes based on that interaction. So automatically we have leveraged prompting to get the best desired outcome. With that said, we are going to go into our first activity just so you guys can get hands-on in ChatGPT and have that first play. I'm going to put a link to a document in the chat. I've accidentally added a number that will take you to the wrong document. Put that in there. So we are going to spend 4 minutes now. You guys are already on mute off camera. I'm going to work that out in the background. But you're going to spend 4 minutes asking ChatGPT to provide an overview of the key challenges based on this case study that I've just given you the link to. So you can tell it that you're giving it a block of text, for example, and copy and paste that text in. We are just using 3.5. If you have 4, you can upload documents, but just focus on 3.5 for now, and you can copy and paste the text in. And then once you've done that, we'd like you to create 2 different versions in different tones. So have a play around with asking it to be professional in the way it answers, and also have a play with asking it to have an entertaining tone or whatever else inspires you. We'll come back at 12:29, but the next 4 minutes is really just for you guys to get in and get that first hands-on before we dive into more details. And I think I've given you all the option to come off mute as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to do so.
We got another way of sharing the scenario because Pat is being asked for his Deloitte login.
Oh dear. Oh, okay. Disaster.
Maybe we can just, that's all right. We can just
Let's just change the
hang on.
actually copy and paste it. Let's find a public site.
How about if I just go to everybody and just everyone and
What we oh, you've got it, Pete.
I'm trying to
I was going to say we can use the Generation AI report.
okay.
All right.
I'll try that.
So there's the link to the Generation AI report that I popped in earlier. So instead of asking it to provide an overview of the SaaS products, perhaps just play around with asking it to summarize the report, or maybe ask it a question about what it hypothesizes the report could be about. So this is really just to help you guys get a taste test of the different outcomes you can get. So I'll give you a few more minutes to do that. Oh, just.
Okay.
I was just going to say, if anyone has any funny outcomes, we'll just come back and copy and paste them into the chat. I asked it to summarize it in the tone of a 5-year-old child. So that's some good one. Let's go roll entertaining tone. Oh, it's even in the all right mate. That's interesting. Did you prompt it roll to say that you were Australian?
Yeah, I have my preferences in ChatGPT, which are always set for everything that I ask.
Yeah.
So it knows my location, etc.
Oh,
Amazing.
you could be doing this training.
You could.
We've got that in there. Custom instructions. That's very good.
Spoiler, we'll get to that for everyone else later on. Any other fun outcomes? What have we got? Oh, is that a song or a poem, Liz?
It's a poem, a rhyming poem.
It is rhyming. Yes.
As a fable. Oh, the last link, poor old
Yes, I am sending it to
showing.
them
Okay.
right now. Wonderful. Okay, well, if anyone else wants to pop in their fun outputs that they've got, it is always entertaining to see. But on that, we are going to jump into these prompting techniques, as in like what is making these good versus less good prompts. So when it comes to prompting techniques, these are the key, I guess, requirements that we've identified as being helpful to getting that best output possible. The first one is probably going to be one of the most important, and there is going to be one more too that you shall not forget. But desired role is going to be when you're setting that context cue. So it's going to be act as a. Do you want it to act as a copywriter? Do you want it to act as a accountant? Whatever the context that you are using ChatGPT or other applications for, this is going to be a real game changer as you start prompting. Your next one's going to be your purpose and outcome. So this is going to be telling it, for example, like what you want it to do. So do you want it to create a workshop? Do you want it to help you write an email? So telling it the desired outcome that you want out of the interaction. Tone, we just had to play with there. Is it going to be fun, casual, business? I definitely leverage this for a lot of LinkedIn posts. I recommend you having a go with that. It does kind of get a bit crazy with the emojis, which is really entertaining when you see ChatGPT try to spice up your LinkedIn post with emojis. Lots of hashtags as well. But then again, telling it to tone down into an informal tone. One way that I one thing I do to get the best tone out of when I use it is I put in an example of my own writing. So I'll do, hey, can you please write the next paragraph or the next section for this, perhaps an email summary. I then say, can you please leverage the same tone as I've done in the paragraph before? Shift enter and I copy and paste the tone that I write in. This helps my outputs be more aligned to my writing style and my voice as well. Content request, do you want it to be a description or a summary? Are you asking it to brainstorm with you and provide bullet points or a table? This is going to help guide how the formatting looks and the outcome as well. Same with the format and length. How many words do you want? Do you want it to be a paragraph? I have found that when I ask it to say 100 to 200 words, it does veer on the lengthy side. So keep that in mind. I'm like, wow, it's always got more to say than I need it to. And then you would ask it to summarize from there. The other incredibly important one, so we've pointed out desired role as being key. The other one is going to be follow-up questions. And this is Roel mentioned earlier, you can actually put in your preferences. So we'll show you how to do that in a bit. But in the meantime, you can also just ask it to do it in your prompts. This is going to then trigger more of a conversation and it's going to enable you to give more context to ChatGPT so your output is better. So when you ask it to ask you follow-up questions, this is going to be then triggering it to ask you perhaps questions about context that is missing. And it'll also help you brainstorm information that you may not have thought of that is going to be relevant to what you're creating, be it a piece of writing or a piece of code, whatnot. Rules and standards, touched on as well again. Saying your location is in Australia, your spelling in British English is a big one. It is going to default to American, so keep an eye out for that. But setting those quality expectations. We do have
couple of those points, Jess. I use it quite regularly when I write a lot of grant applications around the disaster recovery work I do. And things like length. So when you're writing a grant, it might be you've got 300 words. It's actually not the world's greatest counter of its own words. So
It's
I'll
so bad
often
at
sort
math.
of, yeah, I grab the paragraph, stick it in Word and do that word count thing. And it might be 312 or whatever. So just be aware of that. But the other one is sometimes you're trying to express something in a grant, but you've been given a limited number of words. That's where I find this sort of conversational opportunity comes in, where I'll say, okay, can you act as an expert grant writer with skills in, managing a development of a new building? I need to describe the project plan and these sort of things. Can you ask me, here's some context, but can you ask me some questions so we can make this a really compelling answer? And, it starts asking questions. Sometimes I might take, some of the community input, or there's been times where I've pulled consulting engineers report content and stuck it in there. And I use it as this sort of cognitive collaborator. And it's particularly where, if I had free range to write whatever I wanted or for how long I wanted, but it sort of, I find it really useful. And that's why I use it as this sort of knowledge assistant. But the other thing is, when you're providing the questions and this sort of notion of hallucinations, I find hallucinations are more likely to come when you aren't providing all of the context. It's like, you tell me this. And it's sort of, for me, most people that I see that use it are using it initially like it's a search, and often are just putting in search terms. Then they realize they can have a conversational search, but it's this stuff where you're sort of continually adding context. You're getting it to act in a role. You're specifying whether you want it in a table, bullet points, or some other form. You're saying, tell me in a fable or a poem, or write me a series of multiple choice questions that I could then use to quiz a group of people to make sure they've learnt this content or whatever. It's it's sort of really getting used to doing that, and over time it just becomes almost a habit in the way that you do your prompting, and you find you tend to get so much better results.
Yeah, like there's no such thing as a blank slate anymore. We've got an instant brainstorming companion.
Yeah.
Here's an example of, I guess, more advanced prompts. Like, not all of your prompts are going to be at this length or detail, but this is just an example of how some of those components have come together, right? Your sole purpose is to act as a workshop detailed run sheet agenda creator. Your output must have a table. You must gather information, so triggering it to ask you questions, but only ask 2 follow-up questions at a time. And then it's also detailing with the timing and to trigger how it writes X amount of minutes. So if there's information that you need to think about yourself or collate yourself without ChatGPT, Insert X is a really convenient hack to work around that. And then, of course, you have to go off and find that information on your own. So that collaboration component. Here is the output. So you'll see here, even now has facilitator names, it's got breakout groups, it's got a coffee break. So a lot of that is going to have been triggered by those follow-up questions that weren't initially detailed in the prompt. So you're really trying to get the most out of it. We do have a question in the chat, but before we get to that, we will get it in a bit. I just want to flag I have seen it. Here are going to be those custom instructions for ChatGPT. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, so the bottom left where you see your email, you're going to see the custom instructions. Click that, and then that is where you're going to input what you'd like ChatGPT to know about you. So i.e., I live in Australia, you've got that language differentiation immediately. And also, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? So you can say in British English spelling, I'd like you to ask 2 follow-up questions. This is not perfect all of the time. Sometimes you might be like, oh, it hasn't done what I've said in the rules, but it is going to help you be just a bit more, it's going to help the process be a bit easier. So we have touched on this quite a bit, but we really just want to hone in. ChatGPT is 100% confident it's not always right. So it's going to be about really picking and selecting those best use cases where you're not going to be a prime target for hallucinations. So when human generation effort is high, but the validation effort is low, that's when you're, well, easy rather, that's when you're going to find your prime candidates for generative AI use cases. So for example, if I want to create a workshop, I know what I want my workshop to entail. I've done workshops before, so I know how I want it to look. I know who I want facilitating. My validation effort is going to be very easy because I know that end goal I'm trying to reach. However, the human generation effort is going to be low to high, so that's going to be something that I want to use generative AI for. However, if I want to write a line of code, yeah, the human generation effort is going to be high. However, I don't write code. I don't know what that output is going to look like. I don't know what's going to be accurate or not. So my validation effort is hard, and I should probably opt to not use code with generative AI. So it's about picking those things that you as a human expert know how to identify is right or wrong, because it is not always right. So very quickly, boring stuff, those do's and don'ts. So don't share confidential or sensitive data. This is something that we've been really pushing within Deloitte and to our clients as well. OpenAI has come out and said that they are training on data that data from conversations. We don't know how. So it is just important to be aware of that and to think about, in the unlikely situation everything burns down, what have you been having conversations about? Do validate the output for facts. It's not always going to be right, even when you're using the plugins such as Bing or Google Bard. And do ask those follow-up questions and make the use of, when you do use AI, transparent. You don't want to be like that lawyer who got caught out in the US for having used ChatGPT for his court case and everything was wrong, right? So let's make sure that we are validating everything and being transparent when we do use it. So
Hey, do you
now
want me to jump into this question?
Yes, please, Pete.
Yeah, so I'm just writing as well. So the question is, GPT's data cutoff is January 22nd. Sorry, January 2022. I think it's actually September 2021. If you want current information, you could use Bard because that's sort of web browsing. Bing will, again, it turns it into a search term. So it'll generate something, but it'll be more sort of a search style. And if you have ChatGPT Plus, so if you subscribe, you can switch on browsing mode in the settings. So it has a browsing mode, but only for paid subscriptions. So hopefully that is a good comprehensive answer.
Awesome. So now we are going to jump into the next activity. So for the next 5 minutes, love you guys to go into ChatGPT, and this time you're going to create a client workshop. Of course, however, this can be on a topic that is more relevant to your line of work or your interests. And then unfortunately, we can't do breakout rooms, but after 5 minutes, I'll just pull you guys back and we can use the chat box or go off mute and we can have a conversation about the different outcomes that you have reached. So I will start speaking again in 5 minutes. And in the meantime, you can have quiet time in ChatGPT. Any questions as well, you can pop in and we can answer them in the background for those who have any burning questions they'd like to chat about.
Can you hear my dog barking, Jess?
I cannot.
Good.
Defending the house.
We just had the guy who comes in a truck and empty or pumps out the septic tanks. So not a job that I'm not sure how ChatGPT will change that, but I ain't going to explore it. Am I allowed to share my thing once they're finished? Because I can show them how I did.
Yeah. Can you share
a boss.
screen?
Do yeah.
Or did you want us to share screen?
I just thought maybe I can show one. I could actually at a workshop for prompt like a data boss.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. When you call them back.
2 more minutes. All right. I hope you've all had a good test of creating a workshop. I think, Pete, did you want to show your output and then we can ask the others what they've got?
All right, sharing screen. This will stop somebody else. Yes, good. Share. Okay, so one of the features that's in ChatGPT Plus or 4 is a thing called Code Interpreter, what's now called Advanced Data Analysis. So I wanted to develop a workshop to teach people how to use it. So my prompt was act as a learning designer to assist me to design a 1-hour training session on ChatGPT Code Interpreter. I have some specific activities in mind. I want the table, a table format, heading, and the column. So I specified the columns, heading, learning objectives, columns with agenda items, the people who will deliver them, and the time. I need you to ask me questions one at a time. And the reason I do that is because otherwise I'll ask you like 50 questions at once and drive you nuts. To design the session, initially, I would like you to tell me the top 7 things Code Interpreter is best at in relation to data, not so much software coding, and then we'll go from there. So it says, okay, data analysis, data visualization, data cleaning, transformation, predictive modeling, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I plan to make it a very interactive session. I will provide data sets for the group to work with. I'm thinking I'd like to have 2 sets of data to be combined and then put in the same format. So I might have an Excel and a CSV. I want them to review the data, cleanse it, and perhaps you could suggest a good exercise for that. Okay, here's an exercise for cleaning and thing. Then I want to do one where I'm going to upload 2 sets of financial statements, get them to do comparative tables, bloody blah, and metrics and all that stuff. So it does that. Would this meet your objective? Yes, I confirm that's the format. So let's go. Let's proceed to the planning. Here's the output. Can we change the heading? Absolutely. Here's a changed heading. Also, I want you to put the learning objectives in there, put in prerequisites. So you can see here, in a way, I'm just editing through conversation. Yeah, that's the thing. And then I think I actually asked it for where can I get some synthetic data, or where's the best data sets I could get. So it suggested Kaggle, the UCI machine learning repository, government databases, or synthetic data generator. So again, it's that sort of sitting down, thinking, I know what I want to do. I want to have learning objectives. Actually, you tell me what you're best at, and it's a collaboration, not just a hey, tell me a good recipe, or tell me museums to go to in Madrid. Here you go. Back to you, Jess.
Awesome. Does anyone else want to share their workshop output or anything interesting that they found while they were doing that? Can use the chat too. Yep, roll. Come off.
I don't think I can share my screen, but I can talk you through it.
Awesome.
So I actually took what you shared on screen earlier, Jess, kind of about the prompt generator robot.
Yeah.
And started by using that one. So it asked me a couple of questions. Next time I'll definitely put in there, ask them one by one, because I agree with you, Pete. It drives you crazy when you get 10 questions at once.
Yeah.
And then, so I got that table, which I really, I liked and not liked, because like I told it should be a 2-hour workshop, but it's a 2.5-hour workshop. I think it's taking out, I don't know where it takes out, but fine. It's like you said about counting words. And then I asked to include kind of an icebreaker at the start, and also include 2 exercises for the participants. So which was great, because the participant exercises was based on kind of the main outcomes that we wanted to achieve, which I really liked. And then I also asked to make some suggestions, for the icebreaker activities. So I got 5. I picked one, and then asked to add it into the run sheet, and then I got my final output. So quick and easy, I would say. So that's really nice.
And I think that really highlights this bit about, it takes effort to generate, you'd be thinking and all that, but it's easy to say, yeah, that's what I want. No, that's not quite what I want. Or, yeah, give me 5, and maybe we'll work on that second one. How about if we did this? And, it's sort of, it's going at, The other one is, don't rely on it for maths. So, you sort of need to be specific. Can you make, sometimes with that, you might say it's a 2-hour workshop. So can you make sure that you add up all of the suggested times you do, so they do not exceed 2 hours? And again, even I've tried it with things like, mathematical reasoning. I found that ChatGPT is okay for some simple stuff.
Yeah.
But again, I'm saying it act as a financial calculation expert. But like Bard, I tried to do some stuff just to test if it could do superannuation. It was a disaster. You could say, as Jess says, are you sure? The other, what other stuff have we got to go through, Jess? Because there's a few things I might give a few questions.
If you want to, we can go through the questions, I think, because we've just got those 5 minutes left to ask. Someone did have their hand raised. I think it was Annalise. Did you want to come off mute? If you know who I'm seeing, there was a raised hand.
Oh.
No.
All right. Actually, so is there any more formal content? Because there's a couple of things I wouldn't mind just quickly running through.
No, we can
Or-
go off track if you want to run through them.
Yeah, the good thing, for anyone who's worked with me, like, just knows that going off track. One of the number one question I'm getting out there from organisations is, well, how do we use it on our stuff? It is really pretty straightforward to set up your own private and secure instance. So we've at Deloitte, we've created a thing called Gen. You'll see here it's running off Azure. So in effect, you go to Microsoft Azure OpenAI, you attach your Active Directory, and then you've got an internal version. This way, you could use it for, say, more work-related things, or include information about your organization if that's permitted in your organization. Rather than having to sort of do it in vague terms, so you don't end up like the famous Samsung case where I think somebody uploaded their strategy and wanted it to produce something, and then that sort of leaked. So that's a question we get a lot from people around security, privacy, and being able to use it internally. You can see here that we have guidance questions and guidelines. So again, just sort of explaining what it's capable of, what it's not, and what you should or shouldn't do. The main thing that we're doing where we're using it with client work is that we're doing it on our own secure infrastructure and services here. The other one is we look at it with this notion of the right to use. So if we've got an agreement with a client that says any data that you've got, you can use within your systems as long as they're secure, private, and not made available to everybody. But if we don't have that, and which for most contracts that we've had that have been around for a while, that's not in there. So we actually say, let's be transparent and say, hey, we want to use generative AI in some of the work we do. Here's how we'd use it. Here's the background to it. Are you happy? And get them to sign off. I thought I had another one there. The other one is we've got a series of raft of use cases that we're doing with generative AI, and if I can find the bloody thing. But so meeting summarizer. I mean, there are commercial meeting summarizers out there, but yeah, I'd suggest if you're going to use it on your own stuff or internal stuff, that you might want to think. Here's for everybody who's missing it. Here's Deus. It's looking a bit better, so it's still not so great. But yeah, we're running this sort of training. So this training actually came out from a hackathon. Oh, bugger. Came from a hackathon. Here it's going again. It came from a hackathon, and one of the young grads actually submitted about how to get more value from prompting, and we've turned that into this training and rolling it out, and we've trained about 2,500 people internally. Risk guidelines, we continue working on them. Some of the in-flight pilots, enterprise knowledge service, that's effectively GPT and Deus, Insight Assistant. You can sort of pull podcasts, you can pull content and data, you can pull stuff about clients, and then it will turn it into an insight assistant. Obligation AI, automating what you need to do in order to sort of apply. Well, it's this sort of company, what obligations have they got to comply with, and what do we need to audit? Discoveria, that's the discovery tool. There's a few others, but here's Deloitte GPT, meeting summarizers, as I mentioned, voice insights, Game Changer, which is similar to what Roll do with the hey, make up some exercises and games. Regbot, similar, make sure that you've got clear understanding. Super calculator's a really interesting one. That's one where you put in a prompt but what it does is it takes that language prompts and turns it into input values for a superannuation calculator. So that way you can have a discussion about your superannuation without having to know all of the technical words or understanding what the calculator input is. So you can sort of say, hey, I'm Pete, I'm 60, I've got this in super. What would happen if I put extra contributions in? What's the tax impact of, contributions? When would I be able to get it? How much would I get? And it shows you a graph and allows you to change everything. So, but again, in those cases, it's actually, there's a lot of work being done around the prompt to turn that prompt into input values rather than just sort of throwing it to ChatGPT and hope that it doesn't stuff the calculator up. So, yeah, I'd be watching this. Has anybody got any burning questions, or we will let you go if you haven't gone already?
Yeah, I think we are at time. Pop it in the chat. But I do think, yeah, what Pete was just showing there is just really honing in on the importance of understanding these generative AI tools and knowing how to communicate with them is so important because they aren't going anywhere. And if you know how to prompt, then you will beat someone who doesn't know how to prompt.
And I think the recording is going to be available. If you've got a question or want to dig further, or just you want to have a chat or whatever, you're all Deloitte people in somewhere in your heart. So feel free to reach out. My email's there. Ask me on LinkedIn. Yeah, anyway, this is profound change. Yeah, get on board, use it, and yeah, it's like being a kid in a lolly shop, and I just wish I was 20 years younger. So thanks everybody. Thanks, Jess. Well done. And I hope you enjoyed it.